So it's not for kids.
Are there any musicians where you heard their hit single on the radio and you went, damn, I gotta look them up? You look them up and you're like, actually, this sucks ass? Why did they come out with one really good song and the rest of their music is
they're definitely
low-key bad? Because I got a contender for you.
Okay, shoot.
I was thinking about this because of AWOL Nation. The song Sail by AWOL Nation is I like it. I'm not going to go out and say
I think
good.
it's a pretty good song.
Yeah, but I like that song quite a bit.
I mean, the lyrics are edgy, but the song itself is good.
Right, exactly. The style, something about it, dinner. But then you go and listen to the rest of AWOL Nation's music, and it's
as somebody who's a sucker for a good deal, Sail really resonates with me.
Yeah, exactly.
Jokes aside, I have tried to listen for the same reason as you to AWOL Nation, and I was like, this is not good.
It's Imagine Dragons type shit for the most part. I don't know how to explain it.
Yeah, I think it's less bad, but
it's in the same wheelhouse to me because it's like music for Christians and kids that drink. I don't know how to explain it.
I think the closest that I can get to a song that's okay is the one that's run, burn, 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 burn.
Oh,
you know that one?
I forget that's them as well. Yeah, that one.
That's also AWOL Nation.
Who is behind the scenes, coming out with bangers where the bass goes heavy and the distortion's all whack and stuff? Because that's their best stuff. And then you listen to some of their other stuff and it's cheesy and corny and wah, wah.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just.
I mean, you'd think they're a whole country, right? They could come up with something better, but I guess not.
Yeah, that's why they went AWOL.
Have you heard about Imagine Dragons, though?
That's just what I do every day.
Yeah, imagine dragging these nuts across your face. Welcome to Shelf Stable, a podcast celebrating board games that have stood the test of time.
So all we did was shit on AWOL Nation, completely blast any potential AWOL Nation fans that are also a fan of our show. And then you make a dragging these nuts joke, and you're I'm good. I have no other bands that I want to bitch about.
Are you surprised? No, okay, all right. I'll play with you in the space. Is that what you want?
Sure, just give me one more. It's gotta be more than AWOL, right?
I thought that what's her name? Duolingo. What's her actual name?
Dua Lipa?
Yeah, I've called her Duolingo so many times now that I don't actually remember. Okay, Dua Lipa, all her hits are really good. And then you listen to her other music and it's just immemorable pop, which is kind of a shame. And then apparently one of her songs just plagiarized anyway. So it's just I don't know. It's too bad. The, if you want, bum, 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 great bass line. It has the, boom, womp, womp, boom, bow, boom, womp, womp. Great bass.
Great bass. That's a good one, honestly. I haven't even tried to listen to Dua Lipa's regular stuff.
It just sounds generic, background of a YouTube video music.
It's just whatever Vsauce is playing in the background.
Welcome to Shelf Stable, a podcast celebrating board games that have stood the test of time. I'm your host, Kenny Katayama.
And I'm your other host, Tom Bowers. Today, our featured topic is, it's a great game, but this is one little thing I just can't get over about it. Yeah. It's almost the inverse of our open, I just realized. But before we talk about that,
I thought you did it on purpose.
No, I had no intention. I just realized live. You're hearing
I thought that was good.
No, thanks. Genuine reaction right here. But before we get into the main topic, let's just talk about some of the stuff we've just been playing recently. The stuff.
Tom, I got to play Ginkgopolis from 2012. Have you ever eaten a ginkgo bean?
I have not.
They're pretty bitter. It's kind of a very interesting flavor. Ginkgopolis is designed by Xavier from Pearl Games. Yeah, this is part of the Belgian collective that have done Trois as well as Deus and a few other pretty big games. Ginkgopolis is a sort of engine builder. slash sort of drafter. And when I say sort of, I think the sort of is the most interesting part about the game. There is a very unconventional loop to this game. In a certain sense, it kind of feels like Matai or something, where none of the rules play out in ways that they traditionally play in most games. As an example, you are drafting by passing around these cards, but in between passing them, you add a new card to the pack. So it's not like, oh, you draft this set of cards and then you get a new set of cards. It's just infinitely refilling until you run out of cards, and then you shuffle the discard and add the newly added cards. That already, like, it's a very simple change, but it changes kind of the conceit and the pace of the game to a certain extent. Another very unique aspect of this game is that you're functionally building a shared city in the center of the board. Every time you build on top of an existing city tile to build upwards to grow the towers vertically, you are actually placing the previous tile's associated card in front of you in your tableau. And that's how you build up your abilities from turn to turn. But what that means is that card, since you're placing it in front of you, gets removed from the deck, and the card for the tile that you're placing gets added to the deck. There's a very interesting aspect to that is like kind of hard to wrap your head around, if I'm going to be honest. Once you start playing it, it's not that weird. It flows kind of naturally, but it always throws players off. They're always like, this is new to me. Help, help. I'm outside of my comfort zone. It's actually really clever when you start getting comfortable with it and understand it. And yeah, it's cool. It means that you're like physically representing the growth of your city, both via the cards and via the tiles at the same time. I haven't really seen a game do this other than Ginkgopolis. A little bit of peeling the curtain here.
Yeah.
Tom, one of our other friends, and I played Ginkgopolis, I want to say like 2 years back. And I was very lukewarm about it. Tom explained the rules. We started playing. We played like a round's worth, until we like shuffled the deck. And then I said, I think I get it. I thought that the intricacies, kind of the nuance that I just described, was arbitrary and just for the sake of being different and counterintuitive. And the rest of the game just felt like a very run-of-the-mill tableau builder. And so I called it early, and I was just like, let's not spend another... Because the other thing is, I thought the game was going to last for a lot longer than it would have. The games of this last maybe 40 minutes. I thought this was like a 2-hour game based on how little we did in the first round, but it really does snowball. So it was a very premature evaluation. I will fully acknowledge that. And I regret it because once I let this game breathe and I kind of felt the flow of it, I really enjoyed it to the point where I played it and I immediately wanted to play it again. And we actually played 2 games of it. So
wow,
I'm going to eat my words here. The good thing is I didn't disparage it too much, right? I've never talked about it on this cast. It hasn't really come up in any conversation. So because I didn't feel like I confidently gave it a good try. That being said, when Tom and I played it, I was like, I don't really see this as being anything interesting. And then we kind of just shut it down on the spot. I should have been willing to give it more of a shot. It kind of gave me a moment of introspection of like, maybe I'm too quick to judge things sometimes.
Does it make you rethink the reaction you had to Pumafiosi in particular?
Maybe. I mean, that might be a similar case, right? Like,
kinda.
We didn't play it correctly. I just kind of made some judgment calls on it and I was done with it. So like, there's a pattern here, right? It's not super frequent, but we're approaching the new year. We're not quite there yet. Maybe it's a moment to start thinking about resolutions for next year. And maybe one of them is like, don't be so quick to judge something, especially now that you do a podcast.
Yeah.
I think my policy is generally, I'm not going to talk about a game in this segment that I didn't give a good shot to anyway. But it doesn't mean I can't be better in my like personal life, I'm just like, yeah, played that. It sucked. I didn't really play it, but it sucked.
I mean, to be fair to you though, I feel like you don't often like double down on an experience that you just simply found kind of mid or like unpromising, shall we say. You're not usually like, True. Well, like, I tried playing that game once and it sucked ass and it's just like the worst. Like, oh, it's the worst, you know?
True.
Yeah.
I qualify my statements whenever I can and whenever I remember to, of just like, hey, I didn't really give this a good shot, but part of the reason is it wasn't captivating me or something like that. Yeah. Maybe I'm missing out on some gems. Maybe I'm missing out on my new favorite game because I was just like, Pumafiosi, I'm not seeing it pass.
It's very curious to know with that one in particular. I remember Ginkgopolis somewhat vaguely. I think I only played it once-ish fully, and that was like a solo experience. So this is also one that I need to revisit for myself. It has this interesting like verticality to it that I'm always kind of seeking in city builders, and this is a city builder, but kind of like you said, it's a city builder from another dimension. When you described it as being Motine, I like it's that sort of like otherworldliness where you realize that the designer, this is Xavier Georget. This is a design group. I think they have enough experience under them, I suppose, that like this experimentation, you originally saw it as purposeless or just kind of doing something different to be different. But like, I think this is kind of like designers that really know their craft and they are looking to reinvent
I fully
things
take back
bit.
that statement, by the way. I think there's a lot of intentionality behind the way the game was designed. It's just counterintuitive to most heuristics that we usually have as board gamers.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I'd like to come back to this one myself as well.
That was Ginkgopolis from 2012.
Alrighty, so I'm going to talk about Automania. This one from 2015, designed by Kenneth Minde and Kristian Amundsen Østby.
Guess what Kristian also designed? Revive.
Oh,
so this is like pre-Revive.
Okay. Well, I still have yet to play Revive. This is Automania is published by Aporta Games. Automania is an interesting one. I was a little surprised that we hadn't thought to talk about it before, but it sort of makes sense because I think this is the first time that I've got it to table since the sort of initial hype wave that came about from our experience playing this at Dice Tower West in, when was that? 2023?
I want to say it was 2023, 22 maybe.
So we went to Dice Tower West and we met a lovely gentleman named Ross. Shout out Ross if you happen to be listening to this, who taught us this game, Automania. Hadn't heard anything about the game before, but then he kind of told us it's sort of a Grail game. It had a relatively limited print. It has a decent like following to it, I should say, and probably maybe even more so now that Revive is a bit of a hit. Copies of it don't go on sale very often, and when they do, they typically run close to about $100. So when we played at Dice Tower West, I was so sort of like fascinated by it. It had this middleweight complexity. I have not played Kanban by the famous Vito Lacerda, but this had, into my mind, taken the idea of what Kanban is about, which is manufacturing cars, and simplified and streamlined it further to be something that someone newer to this hobby could realistically approach. And so I kind of liked where it sat as a game on the first playthrough. I was pretty impressed. I went and found a copy and I ended up paying, I think, just a little over $60, which felt like a steal at the time. And it might still be a pretty good deal overall. And then I played it, I think, one more time after I got my own copy. And it's basically been dying on my shelf ever since. So I felt really guilty about this game for like a long time. My ideal way to own this game would be to give it to the library and be able to check it out whenever I actually think about it, but then otherwise know that other people are playing this as much as they
like
want.
Double it and give it to the next person. Yeah. Yeah,
because like I don't need my own personal copy of this, but every like couple of years, I think I would be willing to revisit it. It just is one of those where it isn't doing anything crazy interesting. The push and pull of it is not hitting the way that something like Brass does or anything, but it's also like not doing anything wrong. Like it's a perfectly interesting worker placement. It has this like cool sort of mechanic where you're constantly balancing what kind of car you're going to build by placing your worker with what kind of tile you need to pick up from this grid. And then, what's coming out in the market. And then at the same time, it can also feel like quite lucky where you can just like have the right kind of model car that has like the model car that you want to build. There's a tile that you need to put into that type of car in order to score the contract out of your hand. And if it all just lines up for you easy, there's like no thought to the decisions you're going to make. You're just going to throw your meeples like where it makes sense. And then if it's not lined up easy, you're kind of like, fuck, and like, there's not even really kind of like a good recompense or like tactical maneuver, or if there is, I haven't figured it out. To be fair, I've only played this like 4 or 3 times. I think this is the 3rd time. And so I don't know, I'm cooling on it like the more that I'm playing it, ironically. But I think even though I'm maybe complaining about it quite a bit in this segment, my overall take is like, this is a game worth playing. But if you're thinking right now, like, oh, a Grail game, I got to go get one of that for myself. No, you don't. Just go to like the next major board game convention and it's probably in their library.
I didn't play it recently with you. Just thinking back on it and the rules I do remember from looking at you playing it and the next to us at the table, I remember feeling super excited and enthused about it while playing, but not having that same feeling re-experiencing it from witnessing it. So I'm kind of in the same place as you. To me, nowadays, it feels like a solid game, but like maybe it's just we've played a lot more games and our tastes have changed since then, but I'm like less impressed by it. It almost just feels like a just well-designed game that's not doing anything that like stands out kind of thing.
Yeah, it's like exactly that. There's nothing special to it that warrants kind of like the effort of bringing it out. And then it's not simple enough that it is just like you're always getting more than you put in for it. It's like pulling it out of the shelf, remembering the setup rules, like getting it, ready, getting the teach going, getting everyone on board.
Yeah.
All right, let's all play this. And then we play it and everyone goes just like, yeah. And I'm thinking like in juxtaposition with something like Samurai, right? Where it's like, it's pretty light of a teach, relatively speaking. The setup is quick. The turns are snappy. The decisions are dynamic. I just feel like Automania, the decision points, as dynamic as the promise of its worker placement with a grid style thing goes in future markets, like it seems like all the ingredients are there. And then you taste it and it's like Campbell's canned soup. Like it's just like, it gets
it's fascinating.
There, but it is nothing compared to a more
It's fascinating how much we've cooled.
Well-built soup. It's cold soup.
That was Automania from 2015. Cold soup. Whoa, if you got some cold soup, you can run some steam on it and that might heat it up. Choo-choo, we're going over to Train Corner with Kenny. Welcome to Train Corner. This is a new recurring segment where Kenny just talks about trains every episode. I apologize to folks who can't stand hearing me talk about trains. Tom, we're talking about Age of Steam this time from 2002. I send you a picture. You tell me how sexy this train is.
Okay. I like the high contrast colors here. We've got red on blue on gold.
It's a very strong train.
Yeah, the impressionist background loses me a little bit.
Okay, this segment's
with the angular features of the train, but you know what? I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10.
Age of Steam, designed by John Bohrer and Martin Wallace. This version published by Eagle-Gryphon Games. A little bit of a contention there. John Bohrer, Martin Wallace got into kind of a dispute about the design rights for this. I'll post a link to the drama. I don't want to go into it here. Needless to say, this is kind of a fascinating game, both for its history as well as the gameplay itself. I went into this thinking it was going to be relatively similar to Cube Rails games because it looks like them and it has a similar vibe from what I could tell. It is not anything like Cube Rails games. It is its own beast. In Age of Steam, you are functionally playing a pick up and deliver game. And the way you do that is you lay track from different locations. Those locations have supplies on them, and you want to pick up those supplies and send them to the right locations. Basically, you match the colors. If you got a red cube at one location, you have to make sure there's a rail line that goes all the way to a red location, and then you can deliver it. And whenever you use any of the links set up by yourself, you're going to give yourself a point of income. Whenever you use an opponent, you're going to give them an income. And so sometimes you might still want to give your opponent 1 income because you're using like 3 or 4 of your rails. And so it's like, okay, I go up 3, they go up 1, totally worth it. There's a lot of really cool things that play out. It's a relatively simple system. I've described most of it here. Like there's nuances as far as like taking out loans and, upgrading how many lines away you can go. But for the most part, that's the game. Place down rails, use your rails to up your income. I was instantly infatuated with this game. I wanted to play it right away again. I was fascinated with how different this was of a take on trains while also kind of scratching a lot of the same itches. You got that rail placement, but then the pick up and deliver is completely different. I was also fascinated with the fact that I was enjoying a pick up and deliver game. I'm not like anti pick up and deliver, but it's usually something I kind of snooze on. Mm-hmm. I like the cowardly brave mechanic from Broom Service, but I don't like the pick up and deliver. And here's why I think it works in Age of Steam. In Broom Service, you pick up the resources, you collect them, you move to a location you need to go to, and then you drop off the things in the right location. I think a lot of pick up and deliver games use this model. I'm thinking of like Istanbul as well, for example. In Age of Steam, it's all one action. You just check if you have a line that goes from the starting point to the destination, and you click go, and that's it. You've delivered it. If you can't do that, you can't deliver it. So there's none of this like, okay, I got to pick it up. I got to walk all over this area, and I got to put it over here. You don't spend like more action points for a longer distance. It's just, can you do it? Yes or no, fire. And we almost need like 2 names for this. It's like instant pick up and deliver versus action-based pick up and deliver. And I like the former, but I don't like the latter.
They should call these like railgun games or something. Like
yeah, exactly. Hadron games, Hadron Collider games, because that's what it feels like. You're just like, pew.
It's a railgun game in the sense, not in the sense that how an actual railgun works, but like you have to build the rail and then your goods just move at the speed of gun.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so it's like rail-gun games.
I think fans of like factory games would really like this type of railgun game. I also think people that just like creating connections and then optimizing those connections to get the most out of something, and then like being like, check it out, the game's already over because I set up the best system and you can't even recover from this. Like they would love games like this.
It's too late for you. I've already depicted you as the soy jack.
Exactly. I'm very excited to try this again with you, Tom. I have a good feeling about it.
I'm
high
ready.
Recommendations.
My body is ready.
We'll see if I'm just riding a high, or if this is like going to continue to be compelling. Age of Steam, 2002.
Okay, Kenny, it's time for me to talk about a little thing that I like to call Tiny Towns from 2019, designed by Peter McPherson. This is a game that has that like sort of Spiel des Jahres energy. And then at the same time, like it's not unwelcome. I don't know if I'm doing a good job of this. It's like it's in that same canon as Splendor, Catan, almost Ticket to Ride. Like it feels like it fits perfectly in with those other classics in a way that a lot of other games, like they got a little stank on them for some reason or another. Like you got to be a little bit of a freak to play Ginkgopolis or Age of Steam. But Tiny Towns, you're going to buy it from Target and you're going to have a good time.
It's got that board gamer stink on it, Ginkgopolis. Yeah, I see that. Tiny Towns is very clean from that perspective, yeah.
Well, because we were almost talking about how like Ginkgopolis sort of like it subverts expectations that you have as a gamer. Tiny Towns, meanwhile, like basically fits everything you've come to know, right? It has this modular setup tableau that modifies the scoring every time, and then it's a spatial puzzle, and it's interactive in the way that you pick resources where everyone has to basically go along with the decision that you made. It's not highly interactive though either, and so it maintains that Euro feel of like it's not mean-spirited. If you underperform in this game, it's because you didn't make the most of the semi-chaotic decision engine that was coming your way. And so it just fits right in with that canon overall. I like this game quite a bit. I'm realizing more and more that I just really enjoy spatial puzzles of this kind. I think like Project L and some others really do this well. And I mean, it's not too different from things where you're just laying tetronomos or hexagons in interesting ways. It's a little different where it feels a little more akin to those like 3D wooden block puzzles.
For me, it reminds me of like 2048. It's the Flash game where you slide the numbers, and if they're the same number, they get merged.
That's pretty apt in a way, because one of the interesting things about tiny towns is you have these larger buildings that sometimes have pretty potent effects, but you actually have to plan on putting those on your board first, because taking up that many of the squares is going to cause you a huge problem later in the game, or it might not even be physically possible. I like the way that this game develops, and it's really quick. It literally says 45 minutes on the box, and that is exactly how long it took us to play it. When Helena saw me pulling it out, she was kind of dragging her feet to it, and I was just like, it'll literally be 45 minutes. Like, trust. Like, I know
on
this
the
one.
Dot.
Yeah, and we hit it.
Yeah, I like tiny towns a lot.
Out of the gate, though, it does seem like it's designed to make you desire the expansion content. Like, there's a lot of game that you can already play, but you can, at the same time, you're given like this teaser that with a little bit of expansion content, you can have even more interesting variability in the modular setup.
I agree. I think that's AEG's whole brand. Like, they really lean hard into expansion content generally. So,
yeah, like it almost felt like they left off some of the game to make it a microtransaction, though. Like, maybe that's being a bit tinfoil hat, but it's like the fact is that
fair.
There's a basic dwelling. They definitely planned for expansion, but there's like a basic dwelling that always has a single card. So it's the shape of the building and what the building does is always the same every single time you play the game. And there's not a clear reason for why that had to be the case other than to get you to want those expansions, right?
Yeah, I think you might be onto something.
And so the fact is, like, it does make me want to try the expansion. You know what? They fucking got me on this one.
I don't feel compelled to get the expansions, but I do feel like they did kind of like tease it to a certain extent. So I think you're spot on when that. One thing I find like fascinating about tiny towns is I like tiny towns despite not being super hot on a lot of like roll and writes. Because to me, there is a little bit of overlap there. You have like an unexpected thing that you need to put on your board. Everybody's using the same piece, but people are going to go in different directions in terms of how they use them. The difference is that thing is determined by the players as they go around the table. You can see the other players' boards. So there's a considerable amount of interactivity there where you can really mess with people if you are paying attention to a certain extent. I know some people just look at their own boards and they don't care, but I think this game is best when people are heavily interacting with each other.
Yeah, there's that edge to be gained. Plus, it's like almost political and dramatic, or at least it can be.
Yeah.
And so it's entirely driven by the players at the game, how hard they want to push those layers.
I think that's why I find it a little bit more compelling than some of the roll and writes. And honestly, if roll and writes had a little bit more of that interactivity, I probably enjoy them a lot more.
The difference is, like, with a roll and write, there's no agency to the outcome for what you have to deal with on your turn. Whereas in tiny towns, you can make that decision like, okay,
take turns making the call.
Yeah, I want this, but I recognize that there's a couple other players that want this resource. So if I pick a different one, this will fuck with at least some of them, and I'll still be getting what I need later, probably, right? And so you can always make those gambits.
Yeah. Anyway, those tiny towns from 2019.
100 games to play before you die.
Oh boy, here we go. This is the part of the podcast where we talk about the 100 games that you are required by law to play before you die or turn 100 years old, whichever comes first. And game number 49 on that list is poker. Most likely you're going to play Texas Hold'em. It goes back to at least the mid 1800s, if not earlier. It was designed by somebody and is currently part of the public domain, of course. It makes you wonder almost, did someone sit down and actually like pencil it out? Just like, here's my idea. You know, like
I got an idea for a great new game.
Yeah, I've been very invested recently in poker and just fascinated by the sort of like the language that has developed around the game. There's an interesting layer to the culture of it at the moment, at least with Texas Hold'em. But really poker broadly, because there's a lot of players that follow things like Omaha and Five Card Draw and a few others out there as well.
So poker's on the list because of bluffing. I think that bluffing is best in games when it's used as a form of currency, right? It's almost a way to pressure certain things to happen. It's consumed like a resource where it's not really clearly defined how much of it each person has. But your part of the game is sussing that out, and part of it is applying it in the right moments and things. And I can't think of a better game to represent this than poker. I mean, it is a classic for a reason. There are plenty of other games out there that do this, right? That are more board gamery. You know, we can look at something like Liar's Dice or like Skull, for example. But poker is unique in just how much of that currency is quantified to a certain extent. And the focus of the game. I mean, that pretty much is the game. Yeah, you can talk about the probabilities. You can talk about how good hands are and whether or not certain hands are going to come up. But the thing that you have control over in the game is really when you fold, when you raise people versus figure out somebody's bluffing and call them on it. And that's the delight in these types of games.
Yeah, there's this interesting thing that happens with poker. And I don't know if you've heard of this kind of going on, but right now it's a big thing to talk about game theory optimal play. Have you ever heard that term?
Like on the YouTube shorts and stuff?
Yeah, I suppose so. Like GTO, right, is what people say. And GTO is like you create computer programs that they're called solvers, right? And they play the hands over like some bazillion times or whatever, and they calculate based on some kind of statistical distribution and blah, 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 that like 60% of the time, this type of hand makes this type of play against this other type of hand. And, you know, and it'll always kind of like come up with the best quote unquote decision. It's like if everyone were doing that, it reaches this threshold where it's like, okay, but the first person that subverts that or recognizes all, like if you could somehow see through the matrix and know all the GTO moments at every conceivable combination, which is impossible in the first place. It's kind of like chess in that sense, where the mid game is always going to change underneath you. If you're the first person to subvert the GTO play, it's going to throw everyone else's radar off. And so it often, it seems, reverts back to just simply being a social game and just kind of trying to find anything you can that to sort of gut check each other and recognize, you know, what's actually going on underneath. It's fascinating. Like the possibilities of poker, I think, are endless. And so I think it's going to be around for a long time, probably even after board gaming itself.
Totally agree. There's poker from a long time ago.
All right, enough bullshit, enough yapping. We've done quite a bit of yapping already. It's time to get into the real meat and potatoes of the episode, the part of the podcast that people come back to listen to week after week. And that is the main topic of this week's episode. And this week's episode's main topic is games that we think are pretty good, but they got this one little thing that always kind of keeps them on the shelf and not coming out on the table, maybe. Right? Or maybe it's just like, we're down to play it anytime you want, but I'm gonna have to bitch about this one fucking thing because it always reminds me.
You tell them. We decided to pick 3 games each and cover different topics. These aren't the only games that have this, but they're distinctive in that they are games that we really, really like, except that one thing either ruins it or just makes it less fun. So, you know, immediately docks it. Let's start with this one. I think this is a pretty clear example for me. Battlestar Galactica. So I very much enjoy Battlestar Galactica. It helps that I also really like the theme. And I think that the game really evokes the theme. There's a lot of fun little things that go on with this game, but it suffers from a thing that I think a lot of these cooperative but one trader games suffer from. It is way too damn long. And the problem is, I don't think it's as simple as just making the game shorter, like having a smaller objective, but with more difficult things to overcome. I don't think you can just slap on a prelude expansion for Battlestar Galactica. You kind of have to play the full thing. And it just ends up being way too damn long.
This game is too damn long. Remember that reference? It is too damn long.
Yeah. Do you agree, Tom?
Yes. This game is exhaustingly long.
In a sense, it really does make you feel like you're piloting the Galactica because you can tell on their faces in the show how exhausted they are. But like, there's only a certain level of simulation that I really want in my game. And the level of just prolonged paranoia and exhaustion that plays out is just too much for me. I will say, and I've said this before, I have no problem with long games. I just have a problem when they feel unwarranted in their length, or if they have a huge amount of downtime. I'm actually worse on downtime. This is not actually the problem with Battlestar. I feel like you're engaged the whole time. I don't see the downtime as a problem. It is just that the length doesn't feel warranted. At a certain point, it feels like you're doing the same thing over and over and over. And during the last third of the game, there isn't even any of the intrigue left. It's really just a game of like 4 of the players at the table fighting 2 of the other players, or however many. I don't remember the count because I don't want to play this anymore because it's so long. I really wish there's a game out there that felt this way without being this long, but every game that I've been recommended has not fulfilled that desire.
Among Us?
Yeah, well, I mean, I would gladly play Among Us over this.
I was going to say Battlestar Galactica, it feels almost like the 2-hour session of Among Us, or the 4-hour session of Among Us when that game was first getting popular. Battlestar has like rounds to it in a way. And so it's just like the first time you play through a full game of Among Us, you're like, yeah, it was fun. You're like, we got to run it back. Second time, you're like, okay. The third time, you're like, all right, we're still doing this. And then it's like, it just keeps going. That's like Battlestar Galactica feels like. It feels like that by the time you get to the third or fourth game of Among Us in a row.
Yeah, it's like you're playing Among Us for the whole evening. Shadows over Camelot, too long. Dead of Winter, too long. The one where you're on the moon, too long. Like, I can't think of a game where this has been played out in a shorter length. But again, write in. I would love to experience this kind of game without the...
It's different than just like the classic, Secret Hitler or like the Resistance style shit.
I think it's that you have like this thematic experience where you're piloting, fighting, navigating, everything like that. It's not just are you good or are you bad? That's almost just a consequence of seeing people's behaviors to a certain extent. It's not really straight up asking each other questions.
That makes sense. I'm thinking there's that game out there on Steam right now that I've seen a couple of times where like there's office workers and then there are slackers, and the slackers need to find ways to like smoke cigarettes or like, just look at porn or something like, but everyone else is trying to get actual work done. And so they blend in by looking like they're going about their normal stuff, but they're secretly trying to do these sabotage acts. And it's great as a video game, but I feel like that the Office parody style might almost work better in a board game than trying to do these high concept things. Yeah,
I haven't played Beyond Cultist too, so maybe that's the resolution.
One,
it seems like that one's long too. But make an Office-styled one that lasts 30 minutes. Boom. You got my attention. All right, what do you got, Tom?
The first thing that came to my mind was Coup, weirdly. Coup is a great game. It's fun. It's short. Perfect filler. Blah, blah, blah. The one thing about it that is almost annoying at this point is the Duke. The Duke might be too strong.
Well, I'm going to stop you right there, Tom, because I am the Duke, and I say you can't say anything negative about Coup.
Okay, but see, I'm also actually the Duke. So...
Bullshit.
I'm going to call okay, well, I have it, because they always have it.
Oh, you always have it when I call it.
That's the other thing about it. I don't know how you fix the Duke. I almost wonder what this game is like if the Duke is not in it. And I think part of the problem with the Duke is that it doesn't interact between players. the way like the captain does, for example, right? It's like if everyone's duking and you don't have a captain, like you might as well just also be duking, and then like the captain is then like obligated
duking
to steal from one of the dukes. Like it just, you know,
you like, duked all over my table.
Yeah, they're always duking and cooing you, you know, duke and coop, the classic duke and coop.
Yeah, don't you hate it when your friends come over and they just duke all over the place?
Yeah. Duke nuts. I don't know. There's nothing.
Yeah, we tried.
Fix the Duke somehow. Remake Coup, an already great game, but take the Duke out of it. I wonder what it would look like. Genuinely,
I don't have a problem with this.
I know this is a stretch. I'll admit.
I think you always need a default action that's like the go-to, that's like inconspicuous enough but also strong. Because you take the Duke out, right? People are just gonna ambassador.
Ambassador? They're not ambassadoring. No.
You don't think so?
No, the power's too weak.
The classic lie is you Duke and then you assassin, right?
Yeah.
And you lied about the Duke, but you're telling the truth about the assassin. If anybody ever Duke and assassins you, you call bullshit on the Duke. Like you let him kill you and then you call bullshit, just so everybody knows.
Okay, so you solved it, right? Someone goes, I'm duking, and you're like, okay. Then they're like, I'm assassin. You know, if you don't have contested, you just take the L, and then the next time it's their turn, they go, I'm Duke Town. You're like, no fucking way, right?
Yeah.
That's when you call it? Okay.
That's when you call it.
Okay.
This is that tier 3 level play right now. We're giving you all the scoops.
Now I'm going to play it with you next time. I'll have Duke and Assassin. You'll call BS on me. And I will flip my Assassin, and then it'll be my turn again, and I'll Duke again. And you'll be like, bro, what? And then you'll be like, it's BS. And I go, and then you're knocked out and truly wrecked.
Oh, geez.
That's playing
That's
it.
power.
Yeah. All right. What's another one you got?
Doomtown. OG Doomtown. Doomtown Reloaded. Doomtown Reloaded. All of them.
Doomtown Revolutions.
Yeah. Doomtown 360. Doomtown 1.
Doomtown S Edition. Doomtown Solid. Doomtown Revengeance.
Doom Fast. Doom Furious. This game's over-designed. This game needed to throw some stuff on the floor before it got published, and they somehow made it 3 times and never cleaned it up. I'm a lot more sour on this than I am on Battlestar Galactica, because Battlestar Galactica, I think, is still a very good game that just suffers from being too long. Doomtown is a bad game that had a ton of really good potential, in my opinion. This was a CCG and then LCG where you create customized decks. And the coolest thing about this game, which Tom and I have talked about in the past, is that you have the suits and values of playing cards in the top. And when you initiate a combat, you pull out a hand of cards from the top of your deck, not to use the card abilities, but to see what kind of hand you form. So when you're deck building, you want to put cards in your deck that have synergies that build out a certain strategy. But you also want to put cards that don't necessarily fit in it or might just be like general use cards because they have more of the same number or more of the same suit that you already are building your deck around. And then there's even this cool cheating system where some decks punish cheating. If your opponent had a cheating hand, which is like an illegal hand because maybe you have 2 5 of clubs in it, for example, you can call cheating and then they get a nerf or you get a power. Similarly, there are decks that want to cheat. They're like, if you played a cheating hand, you get a bonus or something like that. So there's like a lot of cool stuff just there. That alone could have been an awesome game. You just make like and usually I'm saying the opposite. Usually I'm saying like games are too much like Magic the Gathering. Right now I'm saying you had something great right there. You were cooking. You could have just made the rest of the game Magic the Gathering. But no, Instead, they decided, what if we make a game that's almost a positional area control game on the board where you play out areas, locations, and Then you also play out characters, and the characters can move to adjacent locations or move to certain locations, and you're trying to vie for control of those locations. Again, super cool concept to have almost an area control game where you build out the areas as you play. Could have been its own collectible card game, or like battle style card game, kind of like even like a Schottentotten or Lost Cities or something, where you build out the locations, the lanes that you fight in. But then they decided to put both of those things in a game. And on top of that, the location-based thing results in one of the hardest to parse, most opaque win conditions I've ever seen in a game. And yeah, I'm already feeling the messages coming in of like, Kenny, you're just stupid. It's very simple. You just have to look at this number and compare it to this other number. No. Maybe you've played the game 1,000 times, or maybe you are just a genius and it comes intuitive to you or something like that. But the win condition check for Doomtown is obscenely opaque. You have to look at a value that you have and compare it to a different value of your opponents, and they have to do the same for their stuff. And one of your values has to be higher than the other ones, but not the opponent's value being higher than yours. Otherwise, you're at a stalemate and you continue playing. But if those conditions are met, you win the game at the end of a round. I understand why it works the way it does, because it relates to the locations and you having control of them. But there could have been something simpler. It could have just been that as long as you control locations, you get victory points. And then when somebody hits 20, you win the game or something like that. But instead, they had to do this weird thing that just like incentivizes also not fighting. I don't know if I mentioned this, Tom, but like, this game has one of the coolest combat systems by drawing poker hands, and you only do one combat the whole game.
Yeah, because you're just turtling up or whatever.
Yeah, because of the latter things of what I described. Again, like I've wanted to love this game, but like
So the one thing that bugs you about it is this area control, like movement thing.
Yeah, I really think that if it had just been Magic the Gathering, but combat is determined by poker hands, it would have been super cool. And to be clear, I don't even think the area control thing is bad. I just think that was its own game, and there was just too many ideas in this game, and it could have been trimmed. It's
just funny because like this doesn't quite, to my mind, like fit the idea of like, oh, it's a good game, but there's this one thing. It almost sounds like you're like,
I might be cheating. Yeah,
it's more like it would have been a great game, but they fucked this up. Like, you know,
that's the thing. I think it's a good design. It's probably too good for its own good. There was a lot of really creative ideas here that I've never seen in other games. But it's like, it's almost like I want a Doomtown 4.0, or I want a game that like incorporates what Doomtown has. But yeah.
It sounds almost like you want Doomtown Light. Like, Doomtown where it's just battle, like the poker hand deck building shit.
Yes.
And believe it or not, I've still never played it. So you'll have to maybe teach it to me. And then I can be like, no, Kenny, you just don't understand. It's actually brilliant.
I mean, probably, yeah. You're going to be like, this is beautiful.
Yeah. I could see that happening. Another game that comes to mind when I'm like, oh, the game's great. There's just this one thing about it. Jaipur. Now, this is genuine. I've had this gripe for a long time. It could have been the inspiration for this episode. I don't know. The one thing that prevents me from playing Jaipur is it has like way too much setup for what should be a short game. And the biggest issue with Jaipur is that if you play it as written on top of the setup, the fact is that you have to set it back up potentially 2 additional times. You have to play the game 3 times to play it once, in a way. And I understand that I could just like elect to just do best of 1 games of Jaipur, but it does kind of feel like that's unfair in a sense. Like maybe you just got lucky and you just had an opening hand with like, 5 rubies in it, and you just like basically win on the spot. Playing best 2 out of 3 mitigates a lot of that stuff, but yeah, but even just getting down at the first time, it's mostly just that you always have to set up those stupid little poker chips like the same exact way.
I almost wonder if they could have taken a page out of the multi-use card book, which is always my solution to everything. And it's like, when you collect the gems, you just put them to the side, and then at the end of the round, you just reference how much they're worth, like each collection that you've done. There's something there.
Yeah, I think I get what you're saying. Yeah. The other thing is that like you have to shuffle up like the bonus tiles. So there's like bonus tiles for 5, 4, and 3 sets or whatever.
Right.
And shuffling tiles is just always like a headache that I don't enjoy.
Maybe you could have rolled like a bonus die or something.
Maybe. Yeah, just like something like that.
I don't know why I'm trying to solve it.
I think almost like it could have been better if it had just been like a bunch of like small decks of cards almost, where it just like the probabilities were the same as the thing. When you played like 3 of a kind, you just picked up one of the bonus cards. Like if it was just cards, not chips. I really don't know.
Right.
I don't know what they could have done to fix this exactly. Because like it genuinely is like a great game. It's an awesome like 2-player game. It's got this cool tug of war to it, right? And it works on so many levels. It just has like this mildly obnoxious setup. It's not even really that bad. Like this is like an almost like Seinfeld-esque take where it's like it really shouldn't bug me as much as it does, but it always keeps this game in the box for me a little bit, where I'm just like,
Right.
I just don't want to have to like do all that for like such a small game.
I think it's totally fair. I agree with you. You know what, Tom? I'm going to say that's probably the best example of this topic we've done so far of the 4.
Oh, thank you.
All right. I got my last one here. I'm sure you agree with this to a certain extent, Tom. 5 Tribes. Super fun game. And this is really not a hot take. This is the coolest take I've ever said, because I think literally every critic, every media person in board games agrees with me. Holy moly, the AP, the downtime. I know some folks are like less into this game. I do enjoy it, but if we do play it, I want to limit the player count as much as possible. I just wish there was something that limited your decision space. You're looking at the entire board and you can literally move anything Moncala style. Like there's already a lot of thinking that goes into moving on a Moncala board. It's like, imagine if it was that, but then each thing had like a power triggering with it. It's insane.
Yeah. Like you took Moncala, you gave it 2 additional dimensions, and then every bowl that you can move the Moncala chips also has a special power, and the chips themselves also have a special power, and you have to bid on your turn order to decide when you get to move your chips around.
It's kind of nuts. It really is a shame, because the core loop that you play out is really engaging and interesting, and I like how the different colors trigger different things, but just the AP is like, oof, it makes me dread playing the game.
This is also one that I think could have benefited from having some kind of solo mode, and maybe I'm just misremembering, but it does not. Is that right?
Yeah, no, you're right. It's 2 to 4 players. Oh, while we're at it, just an honorary mention for 5 Tribes. I know we said it's only one problem with it. Call the game 5 Tribes. Let it play up to 5 players. I would never play it at that player count, but,
They should have just figured out a way to bullshit it in.
Get rid of one of the tribes. I don't know. Like,
yeah, just if they made it 3, it'd somehow feel like less.
Oh, it'd probably be less AP prone.
Do you think if they'd limit it to 3 players that actually may have made it feel less dumb that it's called 5 Tribes and only plays up to 3? You think it's like somehow the fact that it goes right up to 4, it's like, come on, guys, come on. I do kind of think that they maybe could have gotten rid of the white meeples, the elders, I think they're called. And then like, you almost could just have gotten rid of the genies with it in a sense, even though that's probably one of the more interesting parts of the game. And it still would have worked. Like, I think it still would have been a good design. We're telling Bruno Catala how to design a game. You know that?
Let me pitch you this. 1 tribe.
One tribe, and then there's only 8 spaces that you can go, and it's like in a clockwise pattern. And then there's like you're just trying to collect as many of the meeples as you can. Something like that, maybe.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you like don't realize I'm making it a Moncala joke. Like I'm just.
Oh no! I totally missed that.
Makes you think of the scene in 30 Rock where they're trying to like add a bunch of stuff to a microwave, and he's just like, "We've just recreated the Kia Sedona." Like it's like it's just a car.
All right, what do you got for your last one?
Yeah, the real answer to this question, Kenny, is actually Magic the Gathering. Great game. The one thing that I take issue with is that you're playing Magic the Gathering. There's just like the funny thing is that originally I did think of Magic, and I was like, the one thing is it's pay to win. But then I was like, and then there's also Spider-Man set. But then there's also the fact that the Spider-Man set has a digital version of the set where a lot of characters from other Magic worlds are suddenly really into spiders.
Hey, you know where you can play the digital version of the Spider-Man set? On the World Wide Web.
Oh, okay. I see. I see. You got me there. That's a good one.
Thanks, everybody.
But like genuinely though, like I love Magic the Gathering, but like really like the biggest thing in its own way is the fact that it's Magic the fucking Gathering. Like there's just so
No, you're not
much.
wrong. Okay, what's your real one?
So Power Grid probably. We've talked about this before, but Power Grid, the card game, almost fixes what's wrong with Power Grid, the actual game. And by fix, I mean like, come on, I'll still play Power Grid. But the map in Power Grid, it becomes such a burden. You literally need to break out calculators. Like they literally need to start including a calculator with this game. Who is doing the math by hand to figure out the cost of the 17 connection between one thing and another and the 15 money you also have to pay to build the building? I know that math is not very hard, but like when there's more than one connection that you have to account for because the closest town you can build it is like 3 units away from your nearest thing, and it's all like networking costs, just like, oh my God. Like, it's a good game other than the fact that it should come with a calculator. And I don't really like the experience generally of having a calculator at the table while I'm playing a game. In Power Grid, I think is like the most vicious offender of this particular problem. There's others, but
I think I'm with you. You know, I'm a little cooler on this one, but I do agree. To me, it's not quite the same as the Doomtown thing where like it would be better just without it. I think it brings something interesting, right? The positional aspect and then planning out these routes to make them effective. It adds more depth to the game. I just don't know that the depth is warranted given how much calculation you need to do. So it's less of it ruins the game as much as it's just the game's better without it.
I mean, Power Grid is cool the way that it creates these real world cities and you can sort of see the way in which they developed in the real world, because if everybody has played Power Grid before, you know that you cannot just go off to some distant corner of Germany and create your own power network. You do all basically need to start in the metropolitan hub and branch out. Like you should all be fighting for the shortest connections essentially. But doing that though, you're going to have to whip out the calculators pretty quick because you're going to have to add up 4 different connections to figure out how to get to the next town.
So yeah, designers, listen.
Yeah, take notes on this one. We know what's up. We make games.
We have the objective calls on what are good games that could be improved. I don't think we've ever been wrong on this podcast, Tom. So we have a pretty good track record, I'd say.
Yeah, you know, not so far that I know. There's almost definitely no takes that one would ever regret that we've had.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah.
You wanna lead us out?
Yeah, I think we've yapped enough. That's going to do it for this week, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you especially to Michael, Tyler, Devon, and Josh of the Boise RainBeaus for your cool segue music. And thank you to Bonehouse for letting us use your song Raw as our opening theme.
Oh, wow. If you're loving the cast, share it with a friend or on Reddit or on BGG. You can also reach out to us directly at shelfstablecast@gmail.com. All this and more available in the show notes. And if you like what we're doing and want to make more of it happen, consider subscribing to us on Patreon. You'll get access to bonus content and Discord and OnlyFans. Tom, what are we going to do for next week?
Next week, Kenny, I think we go to an imaginary place where we've created a world in our own image. All board game publishers have to listen to us and what arbitrary standards that we've set for the industry, or rather what we would set if we could.
I mean, this whole podcast is us living out our sick fantasy, so we might as well just lean into it.
Yeah, just go full hog next week.
Bye.
See you then.